Boom. What is up, all you fine folks out there in social media land? Of course, I'm your host, T, with Mountain Readiness, coming at you live from the Appalachian Mountains here in Wilkes County, North Carolina, the birthplace of NASCAR, and still to this day, number one producer of illegal shine. So welcome to the show. Sandra, good to see you in the chat. Swordsman 007, Battle Gnome, what's going on, brother? And Larry, Loki's mom, Knives by Hand, what's going on, Frank? Glad to see you in here. Burke Spring, glad you guys are back. So tonight we've got a great guest tonight. It's going to be a good conversation, I'm sure of it. But a couple things, just so you guys are aware. I have not been pushing Mountain Readiness very much for the fallout because I am still working on some issues at the campground. We've got another venue running that got double booked. And so we're figuring out who's got what section of the campground and camping and all these type of things. I've just about got all this worked out. We're still having it. It's still going down. Our guest tonight will be there as well. And it's going to be a good time. So I'll pull that up. Let me see here. Banners, Mountain Readiness, Fallout, of course. I don't know where my ticker is at. Somewhere in there. Doesn't matter. Go to www.mountainreadiness. There it is, right there. Boom. Mountain Readiness Fallout, October 17th through the 19th. Go to mountainreadiness.com and check it out. Tickets are on sale. Remember, though, you can't get your camping spot for an RV yet until we get this all hashed out. Now, tent camping doesn't matter. Go ahead and call Casey up at the campground. Get it ordered. Jump on in there. And we'd love to see you there because it's going to be a blast. We're going to have a good time. Campfires feel great. Coffee tastes even better if there's such a thing. All happening there in October there in the foothills of the Appalachian. So let's see here. Patrick 7, what's going on, man? Are you going to make it this October? Because you never come, man. You never show up. Love to see you over there, though. So also, the official sponsor of Mountain Readiness for 2025 is, of course, Matt, NC Scout Brush Beater. Always a pleasure to hang out with Matt. He will be there. We're going to do another night vision thermal IR class. It was a huge hit last May, and we were driving under IR headlights, thermal. I mean, it was a blast. So if you're just not sure about why you should get night vision or thermal or IR or all the above, and you've never really messed around with the stuff, this is your chance to go from baseline all the way up to $10,000 dual tubes you can throw on there, man. So you guys make sure to check it out and come hang out because it's going to be a blast there in Statesville, well, in Harmony. So tonight, our guest is the author of the Tactical Wisdom series, which I have not read yet, but I'm going to. I'm actually ordering those this evening because I looked through them. They look so awesome. And of course, professional. He's a veteran Marine. Does professional protection services. And part of the preparedness community. So let's bring him on now, Mr. Joe Dolio.
Greetings, everyone. It's good to see a lot of familiar names over in your chat that hang out in our chat on our show too. So that's pretty awesome. No, for sure. I love it. It's amazing. You know, the preparedness movement, it's a good sized movement, but how small it actually is. There's like a hardcore group of people that are in there. And I'm going to defend Patrick 7 a little bit. He's the first fan who actually came to an event to meet me a long time ago. And
no
my
kidding.
Man has been to a bunch of other things of mine. So he is a good guy. We like him.
He said, and he's true. It's true, too. He never misses anyone's show. That is a fact. I don't even know how Patrick 7 has as much time as he does with his jobs and especially fighting off all the liberals in Michigan where he lives. I mean, that's a full-time job in itself. So Hey, SHTF Hunter, what's going on, brother? Hello from Virginia. Jason, man, we got a full house. And you're a very loved person, Joe, it appears. Very loved, to say the least.
Well, we got a few fans and a few followers out there. Pretty excited to hook up with you and get involved in this. You mentioned Matt Brushbeater. That guy's quite literally my brother. I got one of his radios literally sitting on the desk right now. Guy's a genius at getting the right gear in your hands and getting you moving. But he does cause me some marital trouble because I end up with a lot of extra gear, a few extra dollars to spend, and oh boy.
Yes. Well, and that's where I actually found out about you was through Matt, of course, doing some stuff with Matt, Mountain Readiness, and then of course you work with Matt quite a bit, and I was like, hey, we need this guy to come to Mountain Readiness as well, and so of course you're going to be joining us there in October for our Fallout event. It's gonna be a great time. Can't wait. So let's delve into a little bit of this stuff, Joe, because I'm curious about these books and about your background and how you started your preparedness journey. Yeah. I always like that backstory, man. You know, the backstory of, where did you start from? How did you get here?
Well, I'm a firm believer in the fact that our grandparents of our age, our grandparents were preppers. They just didn't know it. They came in at the tail end of the Depression. Most of them served in World War II in Korea, and they grew up in a time when everyone grew their own food. Every man knew how to fish, hunt, and camp, and everyone was more interested in putting things away for a rainy day. Society got real comfortable, but the entire time I grew up, my grandfather built that into me. You need to always have a garden. You need to always have a plan. You need to always have certain things. Get a new sleeping bag every year. Have all this stuff so that you're always ready in the event the worst can happen, because you never know. So he was the first influence. The second one was and I hope he's watching, was my Uncle Larry. My Uncle Larry was the original 1980s survivalist. You remember those guys that made a bunch of movies about
camo pants?
The black helicopter crowd, the whole 9 yards. And my Uncle Larry, I was like, man, he is the coolest guy ever. I want to be just like him when I grow up. And then I turned out to be just like him when I grew up. So he's a pretty awesome dude. Really got me involved in it. And he was the one who said, hey, listen, it's not just a disaster that can happen or a foreign invasion that can happen. You need to worry about the things that your own government might do or the things that might happen. And so he set me on that path. And then when I became a U.S. Marine, I started actually working as a protection agent in the Marine Corps, and been to a couple of societies that have collapsed, right? Complete and total collapse societies. You're like, these folks live an entirely different lifestyle than the rest of Western society. And it's one thing to see it in South America or Africa. It was very different when you saw it in somewhere like Bosnia, right? A Western society that actually collapsed. So that really got me thinking about what my situation would be and how I would be prepared for that. And I've kind of built upon that the whole way through. But even then, it was more of a hobby while I was working in the protection world, working either in corporate security departments or taking contracts doing protection work, alternating between those things. When COVID came around, I realized that the world was collectively headed for a really bad spot, and a lot of work dried up. And I decided then, I'm like, hey, let me write my first book. If I can write this first book and get maybe 25 of my friends to buy it, I can check that box off and say, hey, I wrote a book. And here we are 12,000 copies later, and 5 more books in the series. Well, 4 more that are complete, one that is almost complete in the series. So it's kind of been an interesting journey, but I would say it was my family that set me on the path, followed by life experience, seeing how people lived in those societies.
Awesome. I love it. And everybody, a couple things. I see a bunch of viewers out there. Hit some love. Show us some love here. Make the algorithm gods happy with us and hit that like button. Also, if you have a question for Joe, it's #Dolio. So throw up some questions there. We're going to star them, and we're going to throw those Joe's way as we work through this. We are also, I talked to Joe, and he said he is going to give away his first book That would be, let's see here, which one is your first? Oh,
Baseline
Fieldcraft.
training manual. Yep.
Baseline training, first book. So for that one right there, we made it #wisdom. So throw up #wisdom, and you will be entered at the end of this show. At the end of this live, we're going to give away that first book to one of you lucky viewers out there. So throw that in there. #Dolio for questions for Joe. #wisdom to be entered in the drawing tonight when we wrap this up. But how long have you been? I mean, was the preparedness, the self-sufficient type lifestyle, was that always you from even a young child? Like your whole family?
We jumped into the Boy Scouts. My dad was very big into preparedness back then. A lifelong career, though, in state government has kind of shifted him from it. But my dad always was into outdoors and preparedness and things like that. And I really looked up to my dad and my uncle, the two of them together, along with my grandpa and my grandpa's friends. They were all solid outdoorsmen and all into preparedness in one way or another. They just didn't necessarily call it that. So I really enjoyed it. I've always been involved in it. The Boy Scouts was a good entry to that. Back when the Boy Scouts was a good thing.
Was boys?
Yeah, when it was boys and they were scouting, rather than sitting around playing video games all the time.
Right.
But that really the be prepared lifestyle of the Boy Scouts carried on with me. And when you get into something like protection work, you are absolutely 100% always thinking about what can go wrong and having the right things with you to get out of wherever you are immediately. So, yeah, it's kind of always been a thing for me. It's just gotten bigger and better now that we're professional at it, right? Doing some good things in there.
I really liked. I was looking at the dissertation of I think it was your second book, and you said you referred to farmers as, back in the day when they were militant farmers, and that's something that I have pushed and pushed and pushed. That was the foundation of Mountain Readiness for me. Was I got tired of going to events that was just a homesteading event. You couldn't talk about
Absolutely.
firearms. You couldn't talk about prepping. You couldn't do anything. It was only homesteading. It was a happy, holding little bunny rabbits and stuff like that. And so, that's why I started Mountain Readiness. I was like, man, we need a gathering where people could come and they can learn about homesteading and growing a garden. And then more importantly, how to protect that garden. Because as we've talked before, growing your own food's great, but if you can't protect it, inevitably you may be growing food for someone else.
This is going to sound silly, but that's the whole premise of the movie Ants. And you should pay attention to that movie, right? They became really good farmers, but they were peaceable ants, and the grasshoppers would come and steal their food. And they eventually, at some point, had to fight back. And I talk a lot about the militant farmer concept. That's your heritage. And I'm writing an article on my website this week about that. Like, what were the basic skills every man had as sort of the price of entry in America until about 1900, right? You had to be able to grow your own food. You had to be able to defend that food plot. You had to be involved in community security together. Hey, we teach a class about that. Everyone has this misconception about the Old West, that the sheriff was going around arresting people. The sheriff didn't. The men of the community snagged a guy and took him to the sheriff, right?
Right.
And every man had to know how to handle all of these things. And that's really, really an important thing. Where they made preppers seem crazy was the show Doomsday Preppers. They intentionally picked the wildest and craziest people and highlighted them to make it look like this was a weird lifestyle, because they wanted you to stop being self-sufficient. They wanted you to say, well, we have FEMA. Why do I need to do this?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that show, you want to talk about cringe. I mean, everything. Yeah. I watched it just to see how disgusting it was. I've watched the whole thing, and you nailed it. I mean, that's exactly what they wanted to. It's propaganda to make people second guess. Oh, I can't do that kind of thing. I can't prepare. I can't learn how to be self-sufficient because I'll be one of these tinfoil hat weirdos like was on that show, and all my friends will make fun of me.
Absolutely. And that was the entire intent, right? But then COVID happened and preppers became cool. Everyone was like, oh, wow, that's everything I needed. So
Absolutely. Absolutely is the case. I think, what do you, how is there really hope for us at this point, Joe? I mean, my past life as a job 2 years ago, I was a regional operations director. And so I dealt with big, huge trucking companies, Penske and JB Hunt and all these, NFI, huge entities like that. And, dealing with just the public and in the professional world, but also hiring employees doing road service. We did heavy truck and trailer repair, but 20 something year old grown men at this point. I couldn't get them on the phone. And the only way they would respond when I was supposed to interview them was through text. And so, our generation, this next generation is just so broken. And I feel a lot of it is due to us as parents. We wanted better for our children. And so at the same time, we make it more easy for them. And then it makes them softer, it seems like. So I don't know. Yeah. What's your take on that?
We've raised a generation of kids who are entirely dependent upon the free flow of electrons. To them, if it doesn't come on this little magic life control device, it doesn't matter. They only communicate by text. They can't have a face-to-face conversation like you just mentioned. Try getting someone under the age of 30 to actually have a conversation with you. And I'm not trying to down those people, but that really is a problem. They're not able to function in modern jobs in modern society. They can't work an 8-hour shift, and they have to be attached to their phone, and they'd be happier to text and talk to people. I think that is going to create more animosity. What it does, though, interestingly, if I was someone who wanted to be able to control people pretty easily, that's a great way to do it. It's like the current crusade I'm fighting is everyone who, when you put anything on Twitter or Facebook, or whatever, they ask AI if this is true. You are outsourcing your critical thinking to someone who can then manipulate you by saying, no, that's not true, when it is absolutely true. And we've lost critical thinking skills. We've lost communication skills. I think that we are setting ourselves up for a really bad fall.
I've been reading a little bit, not a lot, but I'm hearing a whole lot about 1,000-acre AI fields and just the AI in general. It freaks me out. I mean, and I've tried it. I just have to see, how does this stuff even work? And I've never gotten past anything of Chat GPT. I don't even want to use it for that matter. But, something that I can plug in, hey, give me a dissertation of this, blah, 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 8 pages, and within 2 seconds, it kicks it out in whatever format I want it. And we already have a problem with the youth and, communism, socialism, it's, attack the youth. But then you throw the AI aspect onto this, man. It just seems like we're setting ourselves up for the biggest failure ever, in these few years to come.
I give people a huge caution on AI. If you go to Google a Bible verse or you search it on whatever thing you use, the first thing that pops up is an AI summary of that verse. And people tend to use that to try to learn. That is a big danger. They have the opportunity there to mold your thinking rather than you reading it yourself and taking from it what God intended for you to get from it. So you have to be real careful. As an example of this, over the weekend, as the floods began to happen in Texas, Grok AI on Twitter got caught accepting the leftist claim that Donald Trump was somehow to blame for the weather in Texas.
Wow.
And when people called them out on it, all of a sudden the programming of Grok changed. It said, "Oh, no, Donald Trump's not responsible." But that's the thing. They just say, no, trust us. Everything is fine until you start seeing these answers. And you mentioned ChatGPT on our show. We did a test where we asked ChatGPT if Nazism was bad as a political system. And it said, oh, yeah, Nazism was absolutely terrible, and fascism, and it involved this, and this. This is why it was evil. Then we asked the exact same question: is communism bad? And it said, well, no one political system can be judged as good or bad. Well, it just judged Nazism as bad, but not communism. So it absolutely has a bias based upon who programmed it and who taught it. You have to learn to think for yourself and stay away from that AI nonsense.
Oh yeah, I mean it makes it so easy for you. You know, it's so easy just to throw that in there and let it do all the work for you.
Mm-hmm.
The What's your take on the 1,000-acre AI fields? What is the what do you think what is the true purpose behind it, in your opinion?
You know, the true purpose behind that is to try to create something like a neural network where they can influence your thinking without you knowing that they are. And they do it through AI that you don't know is AI. You think it's just a general search engine, and it's changing things. Wikipedia was the world's biggest experiment in this, right? Wikipedia, you go in, if you ask somebody right now to tell you about a person, they're going to go into Wikipedia, they're going to Google that person's life, and they're going to recite to you what they find on the screen. Most of those are glaringly inaccurate. For example, you probably won't find too many references to the fact that Nelson Mandela was a terrorist. He did. He led a bombing campaign that targeted civilians, right? And they'll say,
Absolutely.
oh, no, he was a great man. He ended apartheid. No, F.W. de Klerk ended apartheid, not Nelson Mandela. And people have believed way too much the information they get out of their little magic answer boxes that they carry with them, their spy device, they carry with them everywhere they go. By the way, you need this screen background that says, I do not consent to a search of this device. You need to put that on your screen.
Oh, sweet. I didn't tell me where to get that. Tell me where I'll throw that sucker on there.
The Electronic Frontier Foundation, they might be some crazy liberals, but that's a good idea of theirs, right?
Nice. And guys, don't forget, questions for Joe, hashtag Dolio, and hashtag, what's that?
I saw one in there from, I think it was Christy.
Oh, let's see here. I don't see one flagged. Do you see
Christy
that?
Renee.
We got to pull that up if you can find it, because I missed it.
Well, I can't highlight it, but it's Christy Renee. It says hashtag Dolio.
There we
go. Do you have a ministry program? Yes, several. Glad you asked. There are actually
Awesome.
4 churches that I know of, 3 in the U.S. and 1 in the United Kingdom, that use my first book as a ministry, teaching people to be more prepared. For example, did you know that God requires you to have a bug out bag? If you get my book, you will see Jeremiah 10:17, which says, gather up your belongings to leave the land, you who live under siege. That is God telling you you need to have a bug out bag. So actually, I run a program in partnership with Every Man a Warrior, which is a totally separate entity. But I run several Every Man a Warrior groups, which is a men's only study, but it teaches men about every area of their life, how to pray, how to study the Bible, how to be a husband, how to be a father, how to excel in work and finances and things like that, all the areas where men fail. But we also on Tuesday nights, Mrs. Tactical Wisdom and I run a Bible study. It's called the Tactical Wisdom Verse Study, and we just basically pick a verse each week. We memorize it because really in order for you to internalize the word, you have to memorize it. In order for you to have that to help someone else who's struggling, you have to memorize it. But then we talk about what that means to us, what we take from it, because everyone's going to take something different. All of our lives are different. And then we talk about how we can apply that to our life. So, yes, we run several ministries is the answer to the question.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
It happens to be in that Bible study.
So. That is great. Well, and just so happens that a lot of that happens here as well. You know, Matthew 24:16, the abomination of desolation, O Israel, flee to the mountains, and this is where I reside.
Yep.
So you know, couldn't agree. You know, I think that's a huge part of what is wrong with the world today as well. Is the prayer and everything has been forced out of the schools, just schools in general. I mean, I don't want to say it like that. I know some people have to send, I was homeschooled, you know, we grew up in the middle of nowhere, off grid, living in tents, and, you know, it was pretty crazy. But at the same time, we gained so much of just the family time. There was no televisions. There was no distractions. We all read books, and we built log homes, well, cabins anyway, and hunted and fished and gardened and, you know, shared campfires together for many, many years. And reading a Bible, the same thing is the world, I think, has just went off the rails over the past 50 plus years, because that has been, you're frowned on for saying that you believe in God, that
And if you look at everything that's on television now, it's anti-Christian, anti-traditional values, anti-family, and we actually talk about that in our studies. And there's Every Man a Warrior has a whole program. Their book 4 program is about combating that influence, right? And like, if you look at what the most successful shows are on HBO and Cinemax, they're all like soft porn, right? They're meant to actually degrade your ability to hear God. Just avoid it.
Absolutely. Music, you have the music industry, you have television, and, everything now. I remember a time when, the trash smut television, Jerry Springer, some of the things that was on that show, and people would be booing, the transvestite craziness and all the stuff going on his show. Now, you're chastised and burned at the stake for talking against anything of that nature. It's just not okay.
1%, right?
That's it. Getting set. Yeah, we've been sold the smoke and mirrors Ponzi scheme. There's no doubt about that. I personally have taken a step back. I don't make the paycheck that I used to 2 years ago, but I'm pretty much almost a full-time homesteader, and then I do construction and little construction jobs here and there, and then Mountain Readiness. But before that, it was 9 years straight of chasing a dollar, and 24/7. We did road service, heavy truck and trailer repair, and so I oversaw multiple states, over 100 service trucks, and I sold my soul for a piece of paper with dead people on it, and that was what my life consisted of. Plenty of money until the end of the year when I got to file taxes, and I gave a good chunk of it right back to those elitists that sells you this whole cloak and mirrors of, oh, this is what you have to be something. You got to make all this cash. You got to have the white picket fence. You got to have the 30-year mortgage, and work all the time. Don't see your family. And this is the American dream. And I think that's where we're at now. We're at that.
And you must have a good indebtedness score. Don't call it a credit score, because it's not about your credit. It's about how good you are at staying in debt. Because if you pay off your credit cards, they don't like that. They want you to stay in debt. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's and everyone that is coming, first off, you are the worker ant from day one. You go to the school, the bell rings at 8, and then it rings, you go to your class, you sit down, it rings again, you get up, you go to the next class. You're being prepped to be the worker ant as soon as you come out. And then it's hey, go ahead and let's spend $80,000 on a college degree so that it goes nowhere, and you can be a barista at Starbucks for the next 5 years trying to pay off that student debt, and then go into more debt and buy a house and 30-year mortgage and pay 4 times what it actually is worth. It is we're set up for failure from day one.
100%. It's meant to keep you enslaved to that system. So I talk a lot on my website about the need for the modern Christian to get involved and to actually do something. So like, if we see a mass shooting happen, what does everyone do? They pull out their phone. And I say, instead of pulling out your phone, go thump that person on the head or go treat that injured person. The number one pushback I get from people isn't that I'm afraid I'll get hurt. It's that I might lose my job. I might get in trouble with the government. I don't want to get involved for that reason. Listen, there's a piece of tactical wisdom. That's why we call it tactical wisdom, by the way, in the Bible, called John 4:17. It says, if a man knows the good he ought to do and doesn't do it, it will count as sin for him. So you can't just walk by. You actually have to get involved and help people. And we can't complain about the direction of our society while also refusing to get involved in bettering our society.
Well said. Well said. I couldn't have said that any better myself. I mean, that was straightforward to the point. Yeah, there's no doubt this world we live in No one wants to get involved. No one wants to take a stand. No one wants to stick their neck out there of fear of Big Brother and what everybody thinks. And I guess that's how communism works, right?
Absolutely. They'll get out their phone right away because they want to go viral on Twitter or TikTok, but they won't actually lift a hand to help somebody. And I said this once on one, a guy was like, what am I going to do? I don't know anything. Well, listen, if there's a guy who's been shot, who's bleeding out in front of you, you can go kneel with him and hold his hand and pray with him so he knows he's not alone in the end. Do something. Do literally anything is better than doing nothing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've actually done that. I was a firefighter, volunteer for almost 5 years, years ago. And, sometimes you roll up on a scene where they're not going to make it. And they ask you, they say, hey, would you pray with me? Well, absolutely we will. Because, if that's the last thing that you see in this earth, I'd say it was worthwhile.
Absolutely. There's never been a traffic accident that my wife and I have gone past, right? We have to stop and make sure everyone's all right. Do what we can to help, because that's how we take it back, guys. It's us all getting involved. The West was not tamed by the government. The West was tamed by the militant farmers living out on the edge who said, hey, we're going to do this ourselves. And when somebody came to steal your cattle at night, you didn't say, well, I'm going to call the sheriff and I hope he gets the telegram in time and he gets out here and catches them. You went out and dealt with it. Or if you found out that Mrs. Johnson's house had been broken into and someone stole her gold, you guys went and found the person, got the gold back, and turned the person over to the judge. That's how we have to do it. We have to start getting involved in securing our own communities and protecting each other. No one else is going to do it.
No, they're not. And on that note, which brings us into the training and the books that you've got right now. So, training, it's a diminishing skill. It's a perishable skill. You have to stay up on top of it. I don't train nearly enough. I try to train as much. I guarantee I train more than the common average guy. But training, what is it? You fall back on your level of training, right? So it's you have some training coming up in July. Tell everybody what you've got going on for this month and the next. You got a lot of stuff. I mean, you just packed full.
We do. We have the summer schedule really, really loaded up. So my first class and my most basic one that we have coming up here, I believe it's the 18th through the 20th, is Fieldcraft. And Fieldcraft is basically the outdoor skills we assume everyone has. How to use a map and compass, how to gear, how to atlas, and how to set up a secure campsite. A lot of folks think in the preparedness world, I'm going to get out here and I'm just going to go camping. Well, camping is like things. We have a great big fire. We got a big campsite. Thing is having a tactical camp that's profile, hidden, quiet, how to do that. And we talk about how to do that in the Fieldcraft class. The biggest skill that you learn there, though, is map and compass, learning to not be so tied to your phone or a GPS device. The entire U.S. GPS system is ran out of a single building in Fort Carson, Colorado. If I know that, I guarantee you that people in Beijing and Moscow know that too. And they know where that building is, and they can make the thing go.
There's another thing of addiction.
First aid that's based on. I'm sorry.
So you were chopping up just a little bit there. I think you had your feed was breaking up a little bit, but I was going to say there's another thing that with the map and compass, that's something that people don't even use anymore. The GPS in itself has ruined travel, because no one, and I myself, I use Google Maps, but it's amazing how many people can't even read an atlas, much less a compass.
Yeah, I'm actually teaching that class tomorrow at an outfitting school. So it's a perishable skill. It's a hard skill. You have to learn how to use that map and compass together. And we talk about that. We spend an entire day on it. We do it daytime and nighttime. So you're not just going to do it one way. You're going to do it both and actually get out there and learn how to use it. After that class, on the 25th of July, to kick off Shield Field Days, which we'll talk about in a minute, we're having a first aid class. that is based off of my 5th book, First Aid Manual. And we're not talking about modern first aid where you're just packaging somebody for an ambulance. We're talking about old school first aid where there might not be an ambulance, where we give them a shot of whiskey and straighten that bone out as best we can, and then we splint it, send them on their way. So we're going to have that class. And then after that, I've got a community security ops class. That one is basically learning how to run checkpoints and traffic control posts and roadblocks to keep a hostile crowd away from your home base. You don't want to fight somebody at your front door. You want to fight them at the mailbox or at the stop sign down the road. So we will run a course on that. Guys have really, really enjoyed that course. We practice a bunch of different scenarios. We set up an entry control point like you're blocking your neighborhood, and I have OPFOR come up and run scenarios on you. Hey, my wife's wounded down at the end of the street. Someone shot her. Can you come and help? What do? Do you leave your gate and go help her? Or do you tell them to try and get her to you? We run through all kinds of scenarios like that, and I throw a few twists in there, and we even talk a little bit about vehicle ops in that class. So that's a lot of fun. The other thing I have coming up is a combatives weekend where you come out, and on Friday we do unarmed self-defense and ground fighting. On Saturday we do stick fighting in the morning and knives in the afternoon. And then on Sunday, we do what's called cold firearms combatives, using a rifle or a handgun that is jammed or empty as a blunt object to defend yourself. And we even get in and play around a little bit with bayonets because I am well known for my love of
Why not?
Why not? People say, oh, it's an outdated weapon. Well, when was the last bayonet charge? Do you know when the last bayonet charge was?
I do not.
It was in Basra, Iraq in 2008. And the British killed over 200 insurgents with bayonets. So bayonets are not outdated. And they're actually still using them quite a bit in the Ukraine war too. So we do that. And then later in August, I do all of my classes in a week period. You can come one weekend and get fieldcraft followed by community security. We have a 1-day break. Then we do another combatives weekend. And we're running through all those classes for the rest of the summer to get as many people trained as we can. Because I know a lot of folks thought, well, our guy won the election, so we're in good shape. Does it feel like we're in good shape? Does it feel like things are getting any better?
I feel way more broke. I feel a little more broke, to be completely honest, especially after trying to go to the grocery store.
Yeah, right on. So there's a lot of things going on. You need to get trained. And in fact, over the weekend, we've had 2 technically insurgent attacks on ICE facilities and border patrolmen that are really, really should be opening up your eyes that it's time to start being serious.
For sure. Well, even all that aside, just natural disaster wise and training. I mean, we all know that natural disasters, it isn't just the disaster that you have to worry about. I mean, Katrina, they took over a completely flooded city, the gangs did. And, not to mention what, Big Brother did to everyone during that. Well,
I thought that's what you meant when you said the gangs.
Same. Yes. Yes, that's exactly what I meant. Thank you. Running around, confiscating everybody's stuff, forcing them into their little concentration camp. I mean, the dome there, but yeah, I mean, that in itself, we just had the, not too long ago, the Hurricane Helene that came through all of this area, and it's still a complete train wreck, still a mess, still people living in tents and all kinds of craziness. And, that was weeks that people were cut off from the world in some of those places like Spruce Pine and down through there. So, the stuff that you're talking about and the stuff that you're teaching, it's not just the apocalyptic end of the world, doomsday type prepping. It's look at Texas currently. Look, how about Philly? With the trash? How about that?
You brought up Western North Carolina. There were communities running their own checkpoints and their own entry control points to make sure you belonged there before you came in. You need to know that. You need to know how to run that. You're going to spend more time doing that than you are engaging in a 3-gun gunfight where you're running it for time, right? Everyone wants to train on guns. They don't want to train on the soft skills of how to do that. Hey, knives by hand. If you design a kukri bayonet, I will be the customer who buys the first one.
I'm going to throw, I tell you, knives by hand. Oh, Frank, he actually did a collaboration with Alan Kay. I'm sure you're familiar with Alan, and gorgeous. But no, Frank does some amazing blades. Those kukris are phenomenal. So yes, let's get a kukri that goes. That's a bayonet, Frank. Let's do it. I want to see that as well. That just sounds, especially on like an SBR, throw that on. Then it becomes like a really long tomahawk or an axe, with that nice curve on the end of it. Right. Brutal, savage. I'm 100% on board.
The other class that actually helped out a lot of people in Western North Carolina was Matt's RTO course, radio telephone operator. Just the ability to set up a radio network where you could talk hilltop to hilltop and get a message relayed down a valley. Kind of an important thing. And I think that everyone should really focus on taking that class of his because it's a very, very solid real world class.
No, for sure. A class that I am still trying to get in to. What an idiot, because I was like, I'm going to start Mountain Readiness and I'm going to learn so much. And the only thing I learned is how to clean toilets and set up tents and empty trash. Like what a dummy. Right. But no, everyone has their cross to bear. I chose mine. And so I'll take my medicine. But that there, the comms, just with the Hurricane Helene right here was insane. Of course, everybody running Starlinks in on foot just to get them into people to get comms back up. That's something that could have been avoided if everybody had taken that class from Matt.
I'll tell you, we use it here in the Swan Valley where I live because most of it has no cell phone coverage. So how do we get around that? Radio. My wife is worried about the last 12 miles from the next town up to the camp here has no cell phone coverage, but I showed her that a radio can cover that whole distance and she's a lot more comfortable with it. And we've got a whole radio network up and down the valley for that very reason. And when Matt was here teaching his RTO course, we took these new Baofeng DM32s. We got 21 miles with these.
Oh, wow.
Digital. So they're pretty nice. And it's
really very impressive. No, absolutely not. That's impressive. 21 miles that out of that little handheld. That's sweet. Now, so you have those classes stacked back and forth, and you also have the Shield Field Days coming up.
Right on. So Shield Field Days is done in partnership with Shield Arms, who is a local manufacturer of folding stock AR-15s. They also make aftermarket parts for Glock pistols. And they now have a new pistol that is coming out in partnership with Glock called the S15. It's an actual, it's just like a Glock. It's a modular handgun that Glock actually has a hand in designing. So they've been good partners with me. They're the ones who convinced me to come on out here and start doing my classes here in Montana. They're based in Big Fork. And what we want to do is create something similar to Mountain Readiness or the Self-Reliance Festival or some of these other ones right here on the camp. We've got this whole property, and we're going to have a bunch of vendors out here. Some of the names everyone knows from Twitter or from the preparedness side, like Exumbris Designs, Vigilante Engineering, Father Abraham, a lot of these others coming out here, Project 223 Preparedness. They're going to come out and give speeches on their gear and on their gear, their classes, and their products. And we're going to have booths set up all over where they can come and try out the stuff. We're going to have games and fun for the kids. We're going to have a bunch of food trucks out here. It's going to be sort of a whole festival atmosphere. This time it doesn't cost anything, 25 to 27. We're trying to get people to come out here on July 25th to 27th. Come on out and hang out. You can camp on site if you want. We also have a limited number of rooms available. I think we're all sold out right now. And we have a few RV slots still available. So if you want to camp an RV out here, we've got a few RV slots. we really want to get more and more people out here to this event. We need to create these so that throughout the year, we as a community can come together. We can meet in the spring at Mountain Readiness. And then in the summer, come on out and meet your West Coast folks at in Big Fork at Shield Field Days. Then in the fall, we're back over on the East Coast at Mountain Readiness again. And getting to see each other, spend time together, and build community. The biggest problem we have in preparedness is this fear that everyone's a Fed and I can't do anything because they might accuse me of doing something. That's by design. They want you afraid to organize. They want you afraid to go to an event and meet each other face to face. But I'll be honest with you, and you know this, you cannot build trust without face-to-face communication. You can't build trust unless you are together. And I want to create a spot out here for that. You've already got a spot for that out there. We want to make that happen. That's why when Matt and I were talking about this idea, I was originally going to come in and start training in North Carolina more and actually move down there. But we decided, wouldn't it be better if we spread out our assets across the entire country so we can build these communities? That way, if you get stuck on the road and you're in the western half of the country, now you know you have a place you can go, or at least you've met a few people who might be able to help you. And we need to do that all over the country. We need to get some spots in the center and some spots all over. Just keep meeting together, spending that time, building trust, building networks, building relationships.
That is number one on the list of when you have these things like the Shield Arms Days, Mountain Readiness, is community. That's number one. Look, Lone Wolf, it's an awesome movie, and that's it. You can't do it alone. You can't be everything. You can't do it all by yourself. And, you know, what I've preached for forever since, especially for the past 3 years with Mountain Readiness is, you know, get to know your neighbor. Sometimes your neighbor is right around the corner. Sometimes your neighbor is in the next state, but you know, we all travel, we all get around and you nailed it. It's a great way of having that network in case you get caught out somewhere away from the homestead, because it happens. You know, a friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours, Chris Weatherman, who will be out there with you in Montana, the Angery American himself, he, you know, all the time, he's like, hey, who do I have out here in Texas? You know, he's in Texas currently. And boom, he'll have, you know, 15 people. Hey, yeah, come stop on by. I'm right here. I'm right there. That's the type of network that you build when you go to these events like you're putting on and I'm putting on. It's building that community. And like you said, you have to do it face to face. And if you're worried about the feds, that's fine, but you have this thing right here that you use all the time.
Yeah.
They already know. Like, what are you so worried? I had a lady at my last Mountain Readiness. She sent me a message and she said, I see that you're going to be recording video at your event. I want a refund. I will not be recorded, and you will not record my children. I want my money back. And I'm like, you just messaged me that on Facebook. Like, you're that worried about a cameraman who doesn't care about you or your children at all, your teenage children. They're recording, you know, instructors, and you're going to message me on Facebook about how you don't want anyone recording you. You know, that's the world we live in. So, you know, quit worrying about what goes on, you know, who could be at the event, because there's a whole bunch of people that is probably your neighbors, which happens all the time at Mountain Readiness. They're like, hey, I didn't realize you live right around the corner from me in the next county, you know, or whatever. That's what this is about, guys. You got to get out there. You got to make those connections. You got to build that community, and that's your tribe. That's your tribe.
Absolutely. And, you know, I teach in my community security class. One of the sessions on Sunday is building a safe house network. And that doesn't mean, you know, it sounds all spy-like, but it just means a place where you can stop, just like you said with Chris Weatherman. If you're traveling, you got a problem, you can stop there, or God forbid you get in a situation like Kyle Rittenhouse where you have to be moved house to house because there's a literal threat on your life. You've built that network already by meeting people face to face. Build that safe house network just in case things happen. And, you know, about that lady, I'll tell you right now, she doesn't even have any idea how many times in a day she passes a flock safety camera that records her license plate number and her face and all of her travels. She walks around the shopping mall all day. I mean, it's absolutely ludicrous in this day and age to be afraid of being taped, because everyone carries a high-end video camera with them everywhere they go.
Wait, now, are you telling me that this camera is on all the time and listening to me all the time? You know, is that why I get all this stuff in my feed that I was just talking about?
Right.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is during my community security house class, we do a night ops class where they get out and they learn how to use night vision and thermals to supplement community security. And I tell everyone to take, when you have your nods on, take out your phone, lay it on the ground, and look at it with the nods. And you will be shocked at the amount of IR flashes that are coming from your camera, because it's constantly taking pictures of you in the IR spectrum that you didn't know it's doing.
Absolutely.
It's crazy.
The smart television, I hear that the smart TVs are doing the same thing now.
Oh, yeah. That doesn't surprise me at all.
No, not even in the least little bit. But hey guys, here at in 3.5 minutes, we're going to do our drawing for the first book of the Tactical Wisdom series. Remember, #wisdom to be in this giveaway. You get you a free copy that Joe will send to you. You can just Joe will get your email from you after the show and get that over to you guys. But Joe,
if you wonder what's in the first book, it's a bunch of checklists and things about what goes in a get home bag, what goes in my full ruck, what do I need as a basic first aid kit. It's all of the bare minimum to get you started. And I'm not a gear guy. I'm not one of those guys that says, "Oh, you got to go buy $1,000 tent, a $500 sleeping bag." I'm like, get a tarp and get a sleep system. I don't care if it's a poncho in a poncho liner. Just get something. And we talk about that to get you started, and then we go into all of the rest.
Boom. Fire, water, food, shelter, security. We did a class with Alan. It was great. Alan K. We did a class in February, and it was amazing. His pack is, this big, and he has one of the heavy German ponchos. And of course, water filtration, a fire starter method, and then he wears his what is it, Class 7, the cold weather gear, and he doesn't even we were freezing to death. Alan's out there just asleep with a tarp over the top of him because he's got his level 7 cold weather gear, and it all crams into a little fanny pack. Basically, I mean, it's packed this big. But that's the necessities. At least carry that stuff on you. That's a have-to situation.
And so that's a big, the level 7 cold weather gear is an important thing. And, I'm starting a class this year, mountain survival, that I'm going to have a summer and a winter, just like I learned in the Marine Corps. Because in Montana over the winter, I was amazed at the number of news stories of people who were out snowmobiling or skiing and got lost and didn't have anywhere near the gear they should have had. So I'm like, hey, we're going to get out. We're going to do that. By the way, Patrick 7, that is a sure way to get yourself booted from the chat on every show. Do not imply that my wife is getting another dog. No, she's not.
Oh, I missed that. We'll throw that up there. I'm going to assume you have a lot of dogs. That's what it sounds like.
She's
and another one on the way.
We have 3 dogs right now. And she's moved on from the dog. She's now convinced that she needs another cat. And it's going to be a Maine Coon cat. So we'll see.
Well, in Montana, though, that's a good thing to have. We're up, we're right off the parkway here in Wilkes County. So, we've got bear. When they say big cat, I've seen some pretty crazy things. And coyotes and the whole bit. We've got the big guardian, the guardian dogs, and they take care of all the animals around here. It's a have to, man. You live out like this, you've got to have them. That's just another layer of protection.
When we decided to move here, we went and got a Great Pyrenees, and he's mediocre. I wouldn't say he's great, but he's a mediocre Pyrenees, 130-pound dog, and we have bear on the property. He actually chased one off just the other day. He and I were in the backyard, and this bear, we call him Charlie Bear, Ursa retardicus, because he's a retarded bear, and he keeps trying to get in the trash. But the bear came around the corner of the house, and here's Thor sitting there, and they look at each other for a minute, and the bear's like, "Nope, I don't want any part of that dog," and he turned around and ran away. But we do have grizzly bears here, and so we're worried about that. And last summer when we were doing Shield Field Days out here, we had a mountain lion come right through the camp. So we have all of it out here.
Yeah, no, that's those are no joke right there. The mountain lion for sure. Yeah, we've got 2 Great Pyrenees. We've got it's Bonnie and Clyde. So and he's over 100 pounds. He's only a year old though, and she's part Anatolian Shepherd, part.
Oh, nice.
So she is a beast. She's heavier and bigger than he is, and the between the two, the only problem with those 2 dogs is they will take off running plain and they will not be watching and come right up behind you, and like you get hit by a couple 100 pounds of dogs like you are upside down flying through the air. It's happened to both of us. So
he's knocked both of us over. Or like he'll be in the yard and he'll look at you and be like, "Hey, I want to play," and he will tackle you and you're going down because that's 130 pounds of dog.
Oh man, it's like a furry freight train come rolling through there.
Absolutely.
For sure. What is this? You mean more chickens for Amber? Yes, Amy, more chickens. Like the 100 and something that we have is not enough. And don't worry, we've got more coming. They're en route. And of course, we've started hatching as well. So there's just chickens everywhere. Thousands of chickens everywhere. Let's do that. And a big thanks. A big thanks to the Russ of Oz behind the curtain, Mr. Russ, the Wizard of Oz. He does all kinds of podcasts, Broken Spokes Productions. If you would like to start a live stream, get with Russ. Hit me up, and I'll get you in touch with Russ. He does the Angery American podcast. He helps us out here on Mountain Readiness. He helps Stephanie Johnson over at Rebuilding Hollers, and he does an exceptional job doing stuff in the background and saves me a whole lot of work of trying to keep up with all the comments and things of that nature. So check out Broken Spokes.
Russ has a face for being in the background. That's
where he can do it. That's his happy place right there behind the curtain. You try to open the curtain, he just pulls it back. No, this is where I belong. The Russ of Oz. So, Russ, if you would, let's run this giveaway for one lucky person on tonight's. There we go. Hit it. All these people around and around we go. Mugga's dad. We know that guy. Congratulations, sir. Just shoot Russ an email, and we will get it over to Joe to get you your first of the series of the tactical of the series there of tactical wisdom, and that was the Fieldcraft. Did I say it? Did I get it right? No, baseline training. Baseline training is the first.
Baseline training, man.
But
if you guys are looking at my books, I've had a couple of active duty Marines contact me. One is trying to get it on the commandant's required reading list for all corporal and above. My chapter on land navigation, reading a map and compass, they say is the best explanation that you can get out there. So check that out.
Wow.
I really enjoy teaching that class and getting people to learn it. Once a guy realizes that if he's got a good map and a good compass, he can find himself anywhere on Earth. That's like a superpower, and that's pretty cool. And I'd be remiss if I didn't point out that Battle Gnome is also in one of my Bible studies. I totally forgot that. So.
Battle Gnome is good old Battle Gnome. Yeah, he comes to the Mountain Readiness diligently, always part of what we've got going on. Once again, here's your community. You guys, you want to know how to build community? Come to these events. And look, all these people here that I know, that you know, that everybody knows because of this. That's what we're doing right here. So, get out there and I don't care if you come to mine, go to Joe's, go to whatever, just go somewhere, do something. It's like training, like pick something. We don't care. Just train, just do something, just get outside the box a little bit. But we're up there on the top of the hour, Joe. It went quick, man. It's been a great time, a pleasure to have you on here. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule. What would you like to leave us with tonight?
I would like to leave you with this. Don't be complacent. I want you all to realize the moment you are in history. We've never been this. Well, we were divided once before, and it was in 1859. So draw your own conclusions. And we need you all engaged, and we need you all training and taking care of your own. don't fall for what I call the little house on the prairie syndrome. That's what we talked about in the beginning, where the homesteaders who think, oh, I'm just going to be able to do my own thing and no one's ever going to come bother me. Don't fall for it. Be prepared.
Absolutely. Words of wisdom from Tactical Wisdom. No, I think that's awesome. And I'll just reiterate like that right there, guys. You cannot do it all on your own. Meet your neighbors. One thing I'll say this is, introduce yourself if you have neighbors, because in this day and age, you can't walk anywhere for more than 20, 30 minutes without running into something of civilization or a person. It's just the world that we live in right now. And if something stupid is going to kick off, I would much rather know if my neighbor sucks before it gets stupid than after the fact, right? You know, maybe your neighbor is awesome and you can be friends, or maybe they suck and you should know that before things get really sideways. So
I'm using that. I have feeling that. That is great.
Yeah, I mean, it's the truth. Like I've met all my neighbors on purpose, and I've got two down at the bottom of the hill. I mean, the closest neighbor is a little over a half mile down the hill from me, and they're awesome. But I've got one that's not awesome, you know. And now I know it. I know it right now before anything gets dumb. I know who my good neighbors are and who my not so good neighbors are. So, you know, think of it like that, guys. And you can't do it all on your own. It's, you know, you're setting yourself up for failure. It's a lot of work, and it looks good in movies. And Rambo is awesome, but it's just a movie. So
the Book of Eli, it was awesome, but it is just a movie.
Yeah, man, Book of Eli. Yeah, that was a good one too. That was a real good one. Love that movie. But yeah, it's a great movie, but you ain't the Book of Eli. You're not Eli. You're just not. So, Joe, thanks a lot, man. We need to do this again. I'm looking forward to meeting you in person there at Mountain Readiness. And, you know, this year it's too late with everything piled on, but next year I want to cross-pollinate. That's a word that I love using, is cross-pollinating, and get up there to Montana. It's been a long time since I've been up to Montana. Last time I was there, I watched the doorknob in the house frost over on the inside. And I was like, man, it gets cold in Montana.
It will do that. It does get cold. Yeah, I know a guy that you know who drives up here in the spring. So, you know.
Maybe hitch a ride with that guy. Right there. So, well, cool. Well, guys, thanks again for joining us. We had an awesome group here. It was because of Joe. It wasn't because of me. You guys are the cool guys. I'm just the guy that empties the trash. So, appreciate you. And, guys, join us next Monday. We'll do this again. Just remember, stay safe, stay ready. We'll see you next time. Roll us out of here, Russ.